Good morning, Rotarians and guests. I'm Joe Ovella, President of Hudson Rotary. I'd like to welcome all of our guests and members here today. Our invocation today is by Kelly Brennan.
This scares you, doesn't it? It's kind of a three-parter. I just wanted to briefly, when you give me the podium. You know what, when Jim asked me to do this, and I think it's not every month, I think it's every other month or however frequently it is, I don't remember. It brought me back to a time when I was a little kid, and I was raised in the parochial environment, so I was always in Catholic school. And when you'd go to school, you'd sit in your desk in our school. Before you did the Pledge of Allegiance, you had prayer. And they would go down the desks in a row. But in my day, we were able to move our desks around. So since I didn't know any prayers, I'd move my desk around all the time. So they'd never call on me. And thought, well, this is working out pretty well for me. I'm sure it only lasted roughly a week, but in my mind, it seemed like it lasted years. My teacher was Sister Mary Catherine, and one day another teacher came in, Sister Anseline, who was the vice principal, and asked to see me in private. And I'll be honest with you, that sends fear, great fear, through any human being. And she pulled me aside and she said, "You don't know any prayers, do you?" And I kind of looked at her like, I'm not sure you really want me to answer that. So she said, well, let me help you here. She said, do you know what the first prayer was? And of course, I'm looking at her as dumb as I'm all looking at you. And she said, it wasn't a prayer at all. Anytime that a person speaks to God, it's a prayer. So she said, everyone knows a prayer because everybody has obviously spoken to God at one point in time. And I, in my mind, at being whatever age I was, can think, yeah, probably had asked him for, Pirates to win the World Series or, a host of things that, quite frankly, maybe God wasn't really listening. But that being said, I just wanted to share that, I remembered that from a very, very young age, that prayer really has nothing to do with what somebody wrote down. It really is just your communication back and forth to God. That being said, the other thing I'm going to start, and again, I don't remember how many times I'm going to be up here. Let me.
Never forget.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I don't know, Tom. I'm pulling out cash. I'm going to put this dollar bill up here, Joe, and anybody who wants to match it, feel free, and then the money should go to the permanent fund for the foundation. Right. So every time I come up here and have to bend your ear, may cost you a nickel or two, but you know, it's good in the long run. So that being said, now let's kind of get on with it, huh? We bow our heads. Praise God, from all blessings flow. For the food in the world, where many walk in hunger. For faith in the world, where many walk in fear. For friends in the world, where many walk alone. We give you thanks, O Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Will that count?
Very good.
That's it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kelly. And to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Craig Tallman.
Thank you, Kelly, for that generosity. Good morning, Rotarians.
Good morning, Craig.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us with a four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it true? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Craig. And our song, Meister, Dick Pearsall.
Well, I'm going to follow the 3-minute prayer. That's the first of the group there. Anyway, I've got an oldie, and to me, attitude is very important. So I found an old song, and it's the title is almost as long as the song, but the title is "Just Let a Smile Be Your Umbrella on a Rainy Day." So let's go, and we'll see how we do it. It's a very short song. So let a smile be your umbrella on a rainy day. And if your sweetie cries, just tell her that a smile will always play. Whenever skies are gray, don't worry or fret. A smile will bring the sunshine and you'll never forget. Let's hear it. But let a smile be your umbrella on a rainy day. That's the last time you'll hear that one.
First and last for that one. Thank you. And I'd like to ask Chris Parker, our secretary. Chris Parker, our secretary, to come up and introduce our guests.
We are a lively bunch today.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay, first I would like to welcome Lonnie Banner from Hudson Service Learning, along with Jamie Cosman, her co-teacher, and Ellie, who's been helping us on AV, and Marissa Dupree. Thank you for joining us today. And then a few of our Rotarians have guests, and so if our Rotarian and their guests can come up, we have we have Evan McCauley and his guests, and then later on, Catherine Sines will introduce her guests from Petal Hudson, who will talk to us a little bit. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So I thought it'd be a good idea today to bring a couple Western Reserve Academy grads along with me, since we have Chris Berner here today.
Your reputation is shot.
Just the opposite. Roberto Sorgai is joining us today. He is the owner. Him and his brother own American Fireworks right on 91. 2005 graduate. Then he jumped right into the family business. They've been around since, 1902? 7th generation, and they've grown. They've got about 60 buildings and 70 acres right there. So thanks for joining us, Roberto. And Will Kimmerly, graduate of 2006, Will and I had the opportunity to play on the golf team together and get to know each other pretty well. Will is the director of operations for a company called Waddle Manufacturing, and they manufacture table parts and other beautiful wood parts. And in Will's free time, he can be found down in Miami hanging out with Kevin O'Leary and using his drone to fly over the city. That's not a joke. Third guest today and potential new member. I'm going to really strong-arm this one. Lee McCauley, my partner at Merrill Lynch, past president of the Hudson Rotary Club. So thanks for coming today, Dad.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. We're going to jump into our 3-minute Rotarian for today, and today it is Bill Wooldridge.
Well, good morning, Rotarians. Good morning, Will. And I promise not to talk too long or about submarines or anything like that. I think some of you remember last week we had a celebration of birthdays in October, and one of which was mine. And I'm going to be 78, therefore rapidly approaching my dotage. And so I'm going to change things a little bit. I'm going to start at the end of my life, which I can remember. Anyhow, I enjoy Rotary for a couple of reasons. One is the service opportunities, and the other is the fellowship with most of you here. And it's a lot of fun. I do have to get up early, however. I have been retired for, 13 years, and I'm spending most of my time in service work. It's kind of a time in life to give back. And also time with kids and grandkids, and we like to go down to Mexico and other places with the kids and grandkids and just spend the week with them. We go different places and take, I'll mention later, we have a lot of grandkids, so that's a lot of fun. In terms of the things I like to do in the service area, the Salvation Army is one of my favorites. I go down there every Tuesday. I also serve on their board for the Summit County Children's Hospital. I think you all may remember Bill Considine was here a few weeks ago, and that's just a wonderful, wonderful place. Treat every child as if they were our own. I just love the place. I've been involved with them for about 30 years. The Hudson Community Foundation, I think I saw Phil back there. We started that up 15, 16 years ago, and it's coming right along. We're up to $15 million now. Hudson City Schools Foundation's another one. Dan Williams and I are both on that. And they're doing some good things. Ed Sogan, of course, heads it up. City Council is another area which gets to be interesting at times. And then the final one is Rahab Ministries, which is a ministry down in Akron I go down to several times a month. Now, now that I can remember the past, I'm going to go back to the beginning of my life. I was born in the Salem Hospital. That's Salem, Massachusetts, the city of witches, or whatever they call it. And I actually grew up in Marblehead. My parents lived in Marblehead, but Marblehead didn't have a hospital, so I was actually born in Salem. And like most of the people there, I like to do sailing and swimming and play tennis and spend a lot of time out in the sun. And as a result, I now spend a lot of time with my dermatologist. I have a wonderful picture of Marblehead. Now, if any of you haven't been there, it's a great sailing place. I mean, it has hundreds of boats in the harbor. And I have a picture of Marblehead Harbor from a helicopter. It just looks down the mouth of the harbor. And it was hanging on my wall in my office, and a fellow came in and started looking at it, and he said, "Gee, that's beautiful. That is really a fantastic place." He said, "Where is it?" I said, "It's Marblehead." And he looked at it, and he looked at it. He says, "I've been up on Lake Erie a lot of times, but Marblehead never looked like that." Well, anyhow, in rapid succession, after growing up in Marblehead, I went to Milton Academy, Yale for a year, 2 years in the Army, 3 years at Colby College, where I got a BA, and 2 years at Harvard, where I got an MBA. I spent most of my business career in financial management. One you'd probably recognize the most is B.F. Goodrich. It doesn't exist any longer, but I was the CFO there for quite a while. King's Medical here in Hudson, and then several other companies and situations. I think I ended up working at 7 different companies, which I read somewhere is the average for people my age to work at 7 different companies. Joe and I were married in 1988, and we live at 100 College Street, right across from Western Reserve Academy. We're a second marriage, and she had 4 children. I have 2, and as a result, we have 13 grandkids, which is a lot. But anyhow, we love taking them on family vacations with us. As I mentioned, we go down to Mexico. We'll take several different groups down every year, just for a week each. We've been out to Lake Chelan in Washington with them several times, San Juan Islands, Outer Banks. We went down there this summer, and if you haven't been there, it's a wonderful place. Kids just loved it. Anyhow, coming back to the present time, I go every day down to Summa Fitness Center. I think you all know what that is. And I ride the bike and read the Wall Street Journal at the same time I'm riding the bike. And sometimes I ride the bike faster as I read the journal. The only problem I have down at Summa Fitness Center, and those of you who are my age or older will recognize this, is once you get down on the floor to do your floor exercises, I have a heck of a time getting up again. I've suggested to them maybe they need to install a crane to get some of us older people up off the floor. Anyhow, that's the story, and as the rabbit said, that's it, folks.
Last week, some of us had the opportunity to work with the service learning students down at Camp Ledgewood. And so I got there. It was very well organized, and they said, well, you're out in a couple of cabins. We're trying to clean some cabins, and there's a team of young ladies out there. So I walked out there. There's three young ladies, and one's sweeping, one's doing windows, the other is doing the mattresses. And so I said, well, how can I help you? What can I do? They said, well, we're already kind of organized. And I said, well, why don't I get another broom, and I'll go start on the next cabin, and we'll, get a head start. And I said, is there another broom? And they said, well, yeah, there's another broom out there, but you can't use it. I said, well, why is that? Well, we killed a spider with it, and it's still on there. You gotta love working with students. Lonnie Banner.
That sounds like my girl. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am in the best mood ever today, so just want everybody to know that. But anywho, thank you so much for all of your help last week at Camp Ledgewood. This year's class is absolutely phenomenal. They had basically all of their service completed, and then the wonderful Rotarians showed up, and I'm like, okay, so we went for a nice hike around the camp. So I had a great time hiking around the camp with Ron and with Ed and with George and Tina and Chris. And so thank you so much for coming out and for your support. But I have 3 fantastic young ladies, or 3, oh my goodness gracious, my mind's crazy today, sorry. My sister had her baby last night, so I'm just so happy. But anywho, I've got 2 fantastic young ladies here to speak to you today about their experiences in service learning. And the first young lady is Ellie.
Hello, I'm Ellie Stiles. I'm a senior at Hudson. So first I'm going to talk about a little bit about college, about our college plans. I hope to attend Ohio State University and major in business. Hopefully get to fashion merchandising at some point. They don't offer it there, so we'll see. I'd also like to minor in photography. And my goals for college are to just be successful, meet some really new, interesting people, put myself out there, study abroad, and not gain the freshman 15. Service learning, I am at Laurel Lake for my site, and I'm up in Crown Center with residents who have some sort of memory loss, mostly severe in that center. So I help out in the dining room. I'm with activities, just giving the residents company and kind of bringing a little life into their little space. And talking with them, trying to lighten the mood. One of my favorite memories is walking down the hallway, and it is sad, but there's just a good part that comes out of it. One of my favorite residents, I don't have favorites, but she's one of my favorites. We were walking down the hall, and she was tired, and she wanted to sit down. And once she sat down, she couldn't get back up. And she said, "I just want to cry." And it is very, very sad and heartbreaking, but it reminds me of when you're in a stage in life. When I was younger, you would just say how you felt. And I just commended her so much for just saying, you know, she wanted to cry, so she said it. And I just hope I can be like that my entire life, just saying how you feel, not really hiding that, and holding it back. She felt something, so she said it. And I just think it's really inspiring to be around people who just say what they feel, although it can be they can be telling me how scraggly my dresses are, but it's okay. It makes me laugh anyways. But I do appreciate their openness, and I look up to them, and it's been a really great experience, and I always walk out happier when I'm done with my service. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Marissa Dupree. I'm also a senior with Ellie, and I wanted to talk about my service site first because I feel like people don't necessarily understand service learning as much as like we do since we're in it. But I am at a site called Urban Vision. It is in Akron, and it's a church, but it's used as a school for immigrant refugee children, and they range from Asian, Hispanic, Caucasian, African American, all different types of backgrounds, and it's just one of the most rewarding places that I could be because I'm there for 5 hours every Wednesday, and I start doing administrative work and I do things to prepare for the program, and then I get to spend 2 hours with the kids, and it is the best 2 hours of my week, no matter what. It is just one of the best experiences ever. I get to interact with the kids, and I get to tutor them and help them with their homework and spend time with them and just play with them. And I feel like it makes me feel so much better about myself knowing that I'm helping them. And one of the experiences that I've had there that kind of really touched my heart was I sat with a young boy and during reading time, and I was going to read a book to him, and he just didn't seem interested. And I asked him, I said, "Well, what's wrong? Why don't you want to be here?" And he said, "I don't like Urban Vision." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because it's not fun. They just make you do work." And I said, "Well, you can make Urban Vision fun if you interact with everybody and you try to have a good time. You can make Urban Vision fun." And he was like, "No, Urban Vision's not fun." And I was like, "Well, no, it's okay. You can always find a way to make it fun." And I was like, "Well, why don't you think it's fun?" I just kept asking him just to see if I could maybe understand more what he was saying instead of just, "It's not fun." And it eventually got to the point where he said, "Well, my grandfather's dead and my brother's dead." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And it was just, I had never realized how traumatic some of the backgrounds for these children were. And they come in and they have smiles on their faces and they enjoy all the time that they have at this site, and the fact that they have this opportunity when they sometimes don't have family, it just being there makes me feel so good. And I feel like I'm bragging, but I enjoy that site so much, and even though it's just a semester site, I may become a volunteer there just to continue to interact with these kids because I love it so much. But moving past that, my plans for the future are actually to work, and I want to take a gap year purely because I think that it is important to have yourself with a good foundation and a good support before you try to move on and explore the future. So I want to take a gap year and work and earn money and get myself stable financially, emotionally, everything like that. And then I plan on attending either Kent State and majoring in drama production, theater, stuff like that, because that is one of my passions. and also maybe minoring or double majoring in dance, because I've danced for 15 years and I don't want to stop. But anyway, I just wanted to talk to you guys and let you know about my service learning experiences and everything like that.
Any questions? All right. Thanks, friends.
Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you. So our Rotarian, Catherine Sines, is also a member of this year's Leadership Hudson class. And I've asked Catherine to come up and to talk, to present to us a little bit about their initiative and their program for this year. Catherine?
Good morning, Rotarians.
Good morning.
First, we all three have,
Donation.
and he didn't tell us ahead of time, so we didn't know to do that. This morning, I just want to share with you a little bit about leadership, or our project, Pedal Hudson, and we were the leadership class last year. And 3 of us are here, but we had 10 or 12?
We had 11, and
11.
then it
Go ahead,
reduced.
introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Robin Thompson. I'm a member of the 2015 class of Leadership Hudson, and I've been a resident for 18 years.
Hi, I'm Kate Schlotterman, and I own the Learned Owl Bookshop, and I was part of Leadership Hudson last year, and it was a great experience, so thank you.
So we just want, I know we have to do it quickly, we're on a time constraint, but we just want to share with you what our project is and then answer any questions that anybody might have. Our mission is to advocate for bike riding and awareness throughout Hudson. I also put copies of this on each one of your tables, and we have extra copies if you want one. We want to become a bicycle-friendly community, and to do that, we need to establish a bicycle advisory committee. And we already had our first meeting. Robin and I were there, and I was surprised at the support that we got. We had stakeholders from the Velo Club, which has 85 members. It's a bicycle club here in Hudson. We had the Century Cycle gentleman who owns the Century Cycle in Peninsula. I don't remember all their names exactly.
Russ, the police officer
Right.
in charge. Yeah.
The police officer, he's the bicycle, charge of the bicycle patrol, and we had one of our first events too, and he showed up and helped to inform the kids of how to get their bicycles registered. You can register your bike in Hudson in case it gets stolen or lost, and he was making them aware of all the bicycle rules. AMETS was there, and Safe Routes Hudson was in attendance. We were just, I was very surprised at all the support that we got. There's like 4 goals that we're going to do, and they are engineering, and I'm not going to read them all to you. You can read them, and they're on your table. Education, and encouragement. If you want, I can read each one, but encouragement, and then enforcement, and then evaluation. And I also have our budget on your tables for you. And we want to thank the Rotary for helping us in an effort to promote healthy living, encourage outdoor activities, an alternate mode of transportation, and reducing pollution and traffic, and highlight all of the Hudson parks. That was another person that was at our meeting, was the parks. And he was excited, that wanted to start giving out duties of who was going to do what. It was kind of exciting. And to position Hudson as an innovative and progressive community. So is there anybody who has questions for the 3 of us about our project or what we plan on doing? None? Okay. And we'll be here, so if you have questions after, we can answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. So moving on, I will ask Bill Wooldridge to introduce our distinguished speaker for the day.
Well, good morning again.
Good morning, Bill.
I think we all know we live in a wonderful community. I'm not sure all of us know what a wonderful, wonderful private secondary school we have. It's one of the very best in the country. And today we're very fortunate to have the head of school, Chris Berner, as our speaker. And Chris has been a member of the reserve group for over 30 years. He's a graduate of the school, and he believes that WRA shaped his character and developed his self-confidence. Chris earned his bachelor's degree from Franklin and Marshall College and a master's degree from both Dartmouth and Harvard. He's devoted his entire professional life to independent boarding schools. He currently teaches advanced Latin at WRA. I thought it was a dead language. A subject he has taught passionately for more than 20 years. And he has also taught economics and history and coached football, wrestling, and lacrosse. And according to Russ over here, he spent a lot of time at those things. Chris embraces the family atmosphere at Western Reserve Academy, and his commitment to the students and the classroom experience is evident when you walk around the campus, and it is a beautiful campus. You'll frequently see him eating dinner in the dining hall with his family, stopping by the dorms to chat with students, and cheering on the various athletic teams. Chris and his wife Allison reside on the campus in Pierce House, and they have 2 children, Matthew and Abigail. It's with great pleasure I welcome Chris Berner.
Thank you.
Chris is teaching Latin. Let me tell you, it's not a dead language.
As you can see, there are quite a few people here that have known me for a while. I've been around Hudson since 72. 1972 is when my family moved here, so I've seen a lot of changes in Hudson. And also, there are many people in this room who have a connection to me one way or another. There are former teachers, former students, graduates of the school, parents that have gone through. So it's remarkable. But when you're around a school for almost 40 years, you have a lot of background. Roberto, right here up front, I've got lots of stories. I don't have time now, but I taught Roberto and his fiance in the same Latin class a while ago. She had better grades, but I'm thrilled to see them getting married. Also, a comment about the Learned Out bookstore. The current owner is here somewhere. My family owned the Learned Out bookstore in the 70s, and on the left side, when we bought it, it was just a small bookstore, and my dad and I built out the left side of the bookstore, so my handiwork is somehow involved there as well. So it really is enjoyable to see all you here and to look back at my time at West Reserve Academy. What I'd like to do this morning is take some time and explain, as Bill explained here, what's going on at West Reserve Academy and this great school we have here. What's interesting is I was the director of missions there for many years, and families would come in to visit, and they say, you know, I didn't even know this was a high school. I thought it was a college, or I didn't know what was even here. So it's amazing that this school's been here since 1826, and even people in Hudson aren't exactly sure what's there. So I'll try to give you a little explanation about the school, what's going on right now, and also some of the things we're doing right now to update the school and direction of independent school education also. Along the way, I would suggest if you have any comments or questions or anything like that, please jump in. I've mentioned my background. As I said, I've been around Hudson for a long time. I've been in both the Hudson schools and Western Reserve Academy, so I came here in 5th grade and went through the middle school. Ed Sogan and I, a while ago, were comparing notes about many of the football and wrestling coaches that I knew just before his time as well. I do want to mention, though, also the president, or I think you call him the Secretary General of Rotary International, is a graduate of Western Reserve Academy. This is John Huco. He was here this past weekend. He serves on the Board of Trustees of Western Reserve Academy. He grew up in Toledo, Ohio, so he's from Ohio originally. I have visited his offices, your offices, I guess, in Evanston, Illinois. So I just thought you might like to know it's a reserve graduate who leads this, and he's just a wonderful guy. I hope you have a chance to meet him at some point. I told him I was coming here this week. He says hello. So very good guy. WRA, first of all, today, just to give you a basic idea of what the school is, our numbers, some of our basic numbers and so on. It's a school of 400 students right now. We have students from 22 different states, 18 different countries. A little bit about the makeup of the students. About 2/3 are boarding, 1/3 are day students coming from Hudson and surrounding towns. We were talking, in fact, at the table there about the international growth. We're a little over 20% international now. When I was a student, I graduated in 1980, the school probably was around 340 students. We probably had several. I can remember a student from Germany. It was not international by any means. Very few states represented. Now we're up to 22 states. We have extensive international representation as well. I think it's wonderful for the students. An opportunity to interact with a student from Dayton or Hudson or Saudi Arabia or China. As our students move on to colleges, which are becoming more and more global and international, of course, the workforce, I think it's a great opportunity to have interaction with students from other countries, even in high school as well. I should mention as well that, and I'll get into costs and so on a little bit later, but about 40% of the students are on financial aid. Accessibility, affordability is one of our biggest challenges. The tuition is, quite frankly, it's quite high. It's like a small arts college. Boarding is around $52,000, $53,000, and day is $33,000. When I was a student, it probably was around $5,000 or $6,000. It's amazing how the cost of independent school education has increased recently. Some of the trends I'm seeing, back when I graduated, Hudson was a town of about 6,000, 7,000. Now, as we know, Hudson's much larger, and this region has grown, so there's pressure on the day student market. The international interest in boarding schools and colleges in America is astronomical right now. For example, we brought in, I think, we enrolled about 12, 13 new students from China. We had about 400 applications just from China alone. This is the case for many independent schools or boarding schools, so that's evolving. I mentioned this region is changing here. And one thing I do want to mention that's very important is Hudson for Western Reserve Academy. And what do I mean by that? Well, most boarding schools, or many boarding schools, are in isolated areas. They're in, many of them are in New England, and they would be in small towns without much for the students to do or the faculty. Having the resource of Hudson so our students can walk downtown, go to Chipotle, of course, and all these other things, is a wonderful outlet for our students, and it is a really important marketing event for the school. Also, for our faculty, the Hudson schools and all the other options we have here, the quality of life in this town, the commitment to use, the bicycle effort, I think that's wonderful. Our kids are riding, as you know, all over the place, but we hear it with the faculty. We'll have faculty looking at other schools that don't have the resources. The challenge we have is getting them out here. Once they arrive, they're looking at many other New England schools, they're looking at Milton and all these other places. They arrive out here and they say, we had no idea there was a town like this in Ohio or a school. So we have a very good a success rate once we get candidates or students here. Our big challenge is getting them out here. And lastly, I would mention, even while this region grows and so on, Western Reserve Academy's mission is as a boarding school. It is a residential school with day students. And I would suggest the day students who are here, I was a day student, we know that we're going to a boarding school as a day student, and I think it's a great opportunity for the local students. But I can say, as I meet with the board, we're first and foremost, we're committed to remaining a boarding school with a residential education. I included this. These are just, what is the landscape that's occurring in independent schools in general? Some things to think about, and these are some, there are some important points. This just came out this summer. Carolyn Koss wrote a book, Studying the Course of Independent Secondary School Education, and these are, right from the introduction, independent schools in the past take comfort in staying the course. You could look at the curriculum at Western Reserve Academy, and Russ can attest to this, he taught there for many years. It didn't change from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and really the 90s. The same courses were taught. But now, independent schools must be positioned as intrepid explorers in the forefront of innovation and excellence instead of merely conservators of tradition. Past performance is no guarantee of future success. Similarly, independent schools must rethink their curricula precisely for the enormous number of students who will be enrolling in those pre-professional schools and colleges. Right now in independent schools, and I suggest also in public schools as well, I think we're seeing almost a revolution in the curriculum. At Reserve, our curriculum has been the exact same for many, many years. Now we're looking at collaborative courses, and we're looking at new disciplines. Latin was just mentioned. Fortunately, Latin is hanging in there, but we're looking looking at the addition of Chinese. We offer that now. I'm getting pressure to offer Arabic. We have Middle Eastern Studies. These are a whole new departments and a new curriculum for the school. So that's what we're facing right now. I think it's exciting. It can be a challenge and concerning to some people, but we're seeing, I think, a real change. Where are we going, and what direction do I get from the board? I really enjoyed hearing all the stories about service and so on. At Western Reserve Academy, as you know, we try to do that as well. This is my 8th year being head of school. I came from within. I was teaching, serving as an administrator, so I've been here for a while. But when I became the head of school, the Board of Trustees, I must admit, I expected to get a big document, a strategic plan or so on, and they handed me 4 points. They said, this is it, Chris. And they said, make a strategic plan and lead the school by these 4 points. Academic strength. Position academics first and foremost at the school. And Reserve has always been very academic, but really make sure you're honing in on the academics and updating the curriculum as well. 2, social mission. As we heard this morning, every student I would suggest every student who's at Hudson High School, Western Reserve Academy, all these great schools we have here, they're fortunate. We heard a story about youth who are not nearly as fortunate. We should give back. We need to give back, and we felt we needed to emphasize that more at Western Reserve Academy. It can be an environment where we go to school 6 days a week. It's a 7-day school in many ways. You can look inwards too much and not look beyond the school. Make sure the students are looking outside of the school and thinking about giving back and hopefully developing a commitment to social mission that'll stay with them. Strengthen make sure the values, a strong, cohesive community. And then lastly, make sure we have the funding. Those are the 4 points I was given now 8 years ago to guide the school. Some of the basic things we've done, we made a whole new schedule, college counseling we had to redo. We've changed Saturday classes. We have what we call ECHO. It's a 4-hour class rather than single classes. When I became a head of school, approximately 44% of the faculty had a graduate degree. We really felt we needed to strengthen the qualifications of the faculty. We're up to 88%. Russ was explaining he felt underpaid for many years. We now are near the top of our ABOPS comparison group in salary, compensation, benefits. And as I said a moment, in my view, one of the great benefits of being at Western Reserve Academy as a faculty member is you live in Hudson. We own all the homes, or most of the homes that surround the school, and so we provide housing right here in Hudson for all the faculty. I mentioned the compensation there as well. So the direction of our curriculum, I mentioned the curriculum is changing. Well, what's occurring? Where are we going? We're offering more collaborative courses. For example, this year we're combining physics and calculus. It might seem logical. I don't know why we didn't think about it a long time ago. Perhaps the teachers didn't want to combine them, but we're combining the logical courses that logically should connect, history and English and so on. We've added Chinese, Middle Eastern Studies, lab sciences. As you look at the trends of what the students are doing, the students are taking more courses now than they did even 5 years ago. A more rigorous curriculum. Russ, you'll be happy to hear, he's a biology teacher. We have more and more students, over half our students take 2 lab sciences now in 1 year. And we have more students taking 2 languages in 1 year. This is a real challenge in terms of budgeting and staffing, because you have the same number of students, but you have many more students in classes. But I think with competition in colleges and so on, it really is remarkable. There's a great deal of interest in this with the students. We are in a campaign right now. Of course, we're an independent private school. We have to fund ourselves. I went public with the campaign this weekend. We're at $52 million raised, and we're thrilled. We're seeking 65. And so what do we hope to do with this campaign? Where will the money go? First of all, the faculty. We have to fund the faculty. We have endowed chairs for many faculty now. Students, I mentioned financial aid a moment ago. Accessibility is very important. Making sure that deserving students can afford Western Reserve Academy. We need to expand that. I think it's a real challenge for all independent schools, and particularly a school in Ohio with the tuition we have. And I'm going to get into a moment Brick Road. What everyone sees here, we're restoring Brick Row, which is, I think, very exciting and perhaps overdue. Some of the things that are underway right now, going along with the curriculum, one of the things we fully updated the IT and the entire school. I saw an IT person walking across campus this summer, and he was, I said, well, what are you doing? And he was looking down on his phone. He said, I'm making sure I can watch YouTube in the middle of the football field. And so I guess that's a real techie, but the entire campus now, including every athletic field, is wireless. It was quite expensive. It took a long time, but our IT is very extensive there. One of the things we're really trying to emphasize right now, even though we're a boarding school and everyone is there, is getting students beyond the campus and off campus for new opportunities. Of course, this lets them try things on before they go to college, and also really enhances their college application. We send students to Heidelberg University every summer now. This is the 5th summer doing it. Our top-level science students that go to the Max Planck Institute, and they do physics and cancer and astrophysics research. We have a program with the Cleveland Clinic. We have students and a faculty member who works there as well doing cancer research. And we had an opera program at Western Reserve Academy this summer, a factory in China where we have students working, trying to expand online courses. This area beyond Reserve, we think, has wonderful opportunities for our students, and there's a great deal of interest in it. We also have more independent research going on. You can see some of the things our students are doing right now. So this is moving beyond the traditional curriculum and really creating new opportunities for our students. We think it's very important. I mentioned as well all the opportunities for students to get beyond the campus. We have a great deal of travel. Some of this travel is academic, some of it is social mission, and some of it is scientific as well. Ross, you'll notice the Galapagos Islands from your time even. So these are things that are going on now, and we're expanding. Let me get into Brick Row. I've been able, for the past 8 years, every time I've addressed a group of alumni, regardless of the year of graduation, and hopefully there's someone in there like from the year of graduating in the 50s, I can say the Athenaeum is the exact same as when you were a student. And it was tired back then. The Athenaeum, if you know Brick Row, it's near the gym. It's on the left or north side of Brick Row, and it's actually separated by Hudson Street from the rest of Brick Row. But in fact, it is an original building of Brick Row. So last year, we totally renovated this building. We, in fact, had to gut it 100% and then rebuild it. And you can see the bricks have been repointed on the outside. And it's historically accurate and correct on the outside. That's important for Hudson. As you probably know, I work with the Hudson Heritage Association and many others, and they watch closely to make sure our campus is up to date. That's open right now. So we're thrilled with that. The chapel. The chapel was renovated this summer. You may remember, if you know anything about the chapel, it was painted red and had a coating on the outside. Well, what we learned is in the 60s or 50s, they didn't have enough money, so they caulked the brick. Anyone who knows anything about caulk knows that that's the wrong way to take care of brick, but what they did is they coated it to keep the caulk on there. We weren't sure what was going to happen. As anyone knows who's restored an old building, once you start working on it, you don't know what the expense is going to be. So we stripped the caulk off, we repointed and replaced. You can see down here, we took out many of the bricks. And for a building that is really as historic as the campus, as this chapel is, that's a scary thing to do. But it worked out very well. We don't have to repaint it. The building looks beautiful on the outside, and we're thrilled. We also have redone the brickwork in the walkway. So that was just completed. Next summer we'll redo the inside. This is a project that's taking off right now, and we're really excited about this as well. And it's a makerspace, or some people call them fab labs, or whatever different things. Case Western Reserve has one, MIT has one. This actually will be one of the largest makerspaces or fab labs in any high school in America. We have over $5 million raised for this. I know it's tough to see, but this is the whole left end or north side of what's called the Knight Fine Arts Center. And this will be a space for students to walk in with an idea, work on a computer, design it, build it, and then perhaps sell it. The idea is they can do all of that in one place. And the idea is this will also combine the curriculum. So you'll have the arts, you'll have science, you'll have technology. It'll all be in one spot. So this project is underway right now, actually. You can see it's 5,500 square feet. I know this is hard to see here. What happens is you've got the computers down here, you've got workspace here, and then as you move down, it becomes what they call dirty space, or where they actually do the work. And what will be in here, laser cutters, a vinyl cutter, 3D scanners, and printers, several 3D printers, scan scanners, subtractive machine. The ShopBot is actually really neat as well. What's really been interesting about this is we got the initial gift, and as our alumni have learned about it, I found alumni who were involved in engineering or science coming back and giving more equipment or supporting this, so it's really taking off. This will be open in April, and so our students will be using it later this year. We're working on it right now. Other things that'll be in there, laptops, computers, and everything. So all of our science and all of our technology will be combined in one spot, which we think will be really exciting. Then lastly, where are we going? What are the new things? I've gone through some of them. I foresee more and more interdisciplinary courses at the school. We have to get our students beyond the campus, social mission opportunities, as was just explained here, research in different places. It may seem counterintuitive for a boarding school, but we find get our students there, let them interact with each other, but also make sure they move beyond the school. We need the faculty to meet these goals. To be a faculty member at Reserve, you need to be willing and ready to travel with the students, or willing and ready to work in a makerspace, retool the faculty in some ways. We have to renew the campus, our historical buildings, and then lastly, I have to work on the funding, make sure we can afford all this, and then the accessibility. What I'd mention as well, one last thing with the funding that is really interesting is, of course, as an independent school, we have to come up with our own funding. Three sources. Tuition. We have an endowment. The endowment right now is about $115 million, and then also the annual fund. So those are our three revenue streams to make this go all year, every year. And we feel we're well funded right now, but the biggest challenge in the funding, you look at the bottom, accessibility, really making sure students have access to this. I'd also mention as well, one of the challenges we also have is we have a beautiful and historic campus. It would be cheaper and it would be easier to build new buildings than it would to restore these old buildings, but I don't think the town or the alumni would be real happy with that, so we're committed to restoring those as well. And then I guess one last comment before I'll take some questions. I mentioned the students getting off campus. My dad jokes with me, who was a businessman for his whole career. He says, I send a son an education and he travels more than I did as a businessman. I travel extensively. I'm beyond, out of Hudson very often. In fact, I'm going to leave for almost all of November to go through Asia. And I also travel within America. Many of our alumni move, of course, beyond Ohio. Our second largest alumni base actually is California, so I'm out there quite a bit. This involves actually a lot of travel to reach out and make sure we see our alumni as well. That's a snapshot of Western Reserve Academy. I'm happy to take any questions or comments from anyone but Russ. Russ.
Hey, Russ, hang on one second. We got to get a microphone in front of you. Yeah, we're on.
That's in cable. So.
Oh, great.
When I was there, my work week was 60 or 70 hours. I'm serious about that. Yeah. I wonder what the work week is now.
Yeah.
I know his is up there, but it was a great privilege to live in Hudson and to teach at that school. It's first rate, and it's a very different experience than one would have at a public school. I'm not saying it's that much better. I think it was much, much better. But the faculty and the students live together. They're in our homes, we're in their rooms, we're in the dormitories. It's a very close relationship, and it's entirely different from a public school education.
Thank you, Russ. Well, just a comment about the faculty. He's right. The faculty all live on campus, or almost all of them. So if you are going to be a faculty member, you have to be willing and ready to live with the students, eat with them, and interact with them truly around the clock. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, but it's not for everyone. You really have to be committed and ready to do that. Yes?
Two questions, sir. Obviously, you have grade point averages as far as getting into the school, and maybe explain a little bit about that. Along with that, what is the cost of the school, if you're allowed to say? And the second part is you going out to California, Asia, so you're asking for support from former graduates. Is that what you're doing when you go out?
First of all, the first part of the question, the admission process essentially, and applying to Western Reserve Academy is somewhat like applying to a college. We're going through that right now. The application process occurs throughout the winter with letters going out in the spring. There's an interview. There's an SS. It's called the Standard Secondary School Admission Test, somewhat like the SAT for 8th graders. So yes, there are GPA. We look at the GPA. We look at the test scores, recommendations. We look at each student holistically, just like a college application. The cost, you asked about the cost. Tuition, boarding tuition is right around $52,000, days right around $32,000. We are a member of a consortium of 40 other boarding schools where we compare numbers. Milton's one of those. Believe it or not, we're in that group, a bargain. We have the lowest tuition, or the second lowest tuition of the 40 schools with which we compare ourselves, but most of those schools are in fact in New England and closer to some other major urban areas. But 52 and 32 would be the cost. And your last question, last part was, visiting, what do I do? Yeah. I primarily, as I travel, I meet with alumni, parents, and friends of the school. As I mentioned, we're in a campaign right now. So that means raising funds for those things, raising funds for the projects we're working on right now, raising funds for faculty and financial aid. That's what primarily my travel is, reaching out to make sure our alumni remain connected to the school and making sure friends and current parents do too. Yes? Yeah, a closure rate would be, I would say there's very strong support. I don't have a percentage or a number. What I would suggest is to be successful at it, we have to continually be reaching out to our alumni, particularly, quite frankly, so many of our alumni, they don't end up actually in Ohio. So we're reaching out to them. Yes?
Just to clarify, did I understand in this campaign you referred to that you've already raised, I think did I hear you say $52 million?
That's correct.
And you just announced it publicly?
That's correct.
All right, so during the quiet phase, right? Can you comment on how long the quiet phase has gone on, and what % of those monies really came from the alumni themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. For those of you who are familiar with campaigns, or usually as a quiet phase, typically you want to get a large percentage of your campaign finished in the quiet phase, so you can announce it, go over the finish line, and celebrate it, and we've done that. In terms of the quiet phase, some of it also is in estate planning as well. So it's a series of, some is outright cash, some is deferred in estate planning, and so on. And where did it come from? I'd say about 60% or so has come from alumni. The rest have come from parents and friends of the school, foundations, and so on as well. So there's very strong alumni support also. But yes, that's. How long? We foresee another 3 years for this. Another 3 years. Yes.
Hey, Chris, we've lived here since 1969, and we've been on the campus since 1978. I'd like to compliment you on how well the school has done, not only in the past, but continues to do in the future. How well you integrate in with the town.
Thank you.
That really, there's virtually transparent.
Yeah.
You see kids going to school, walking across the streets. But other than that, everything is just tied in with the town. It's a marvelous experience for us as members of the town, and I imagine for the kids too.
Yeah.
Congratulations, and keep it up.
Thank you. Well, let me comment on that. First of all, thank you for the comment, and I appreciate it. I mentioned a moment ago how important Hudson and the town is to Western Reserve Academy. Ensuring our students are good citizens of this town is very important to us. They spend a great deal of time downtown and so on, and that's part of their education. But the relationship of this town, the relationship with the Hudson schools and so on, it's very important to us. And it also makes the school, I think, a lot stronger as well. This town helps the school a great deal, too. Thank you. Oh, I got Roberto.
I had the pleasure of being in this class for, 3 years there, something like that. Trying basically put into a class.
I think he was there for 6 years.
Yeah. No one was really counting, but I had the honor of being in this class there for, I believe, 3 years. I got pushed into it because I wasn't doing so well in the English, or in the the language department, and you have to suffice 3 solid years, right? And but there's a question that a lot of his students always had, but we can never get the real answer for. So we've got him sort of on the spotlight. So why was your nickname Flash?
See, this is what happens when you bring out former students. You don't know what's going to happen. It's a deep secret, Roberto, and I appreciate the question, but you know, I can't tell you that, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know Roberto will probably walk by this as well, so Roberto, here's yours as well.
Thank you, Chris.